to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call?
All right, Mayor Westergaard.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Stanky.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Bolton. Wiggy.
Yes.
Is there anyone that would like to speak at public forum? John, go
I
ahead.
have 2 issues in a statement, please.
You bet.
Mr. Mayor, council members all, friends and neighbors in our lovely town of Lakeview, it's very important to remember the dead. Usually we mourn the dead. Sometimes we celebrate the dead, but we remember them. That's good. That's important. Deaths from war are sad. No one argues this. It's universal. Very young men from Lakeview, all of whom walk these very sidewalks, many of whom were in this very building, maybe this room, many of whom were in the old section of the school, and certainly the country school. They drank beer at Lakewood, and they took girls down to Arrowhead. Till one day the United States Congress called 657, and they said, young men, your country needs you, now. Go to the depot there in Lakeview this Saturday at 0600 and join us. Everything is at stake. This is for the flag. And the young men of Lakeview said yes. And that morning they climbed aboard and the train pulled out and Mom waved goodbye and they left Lakeview, and there's nothing to say about anything after that. Since early last December 2017, we have been mourning these military dead and honoring these military dead and remembering these military dead and celebrating these military dead every single night, all night long till the sun comes up. This included last Christmas. In my opinion, this is bad. I propose that on Christmas we turn off the lights at the monument. Yes, I'm trying to make a point that I don't just drive by. But anyway, that's one night of the year we can choose not to be reminded of this. Reminded. And if anyone says you can't have a Lakeview Christmas without the military dead, there's a little boy from Lakeview inside of me who's telling you that ain't so. And tonight, I'm also telling you that ain't so, and I'm adding that we can take another look at our beautiful 138-year-old town. Secondly, this town should make it a priority to honor our national flag with lighting. It's the mark of a town with sophistication. When Mrs. Renzi taught us, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, she said the flag can inspire us to be better citizens. Back then, report cards in the playground, but now, when we are civil, and for an example, when we take care of our health, we are better citizens. She said some people see joy in the flag and that it represented the ideals of our nation's founders. Mrs. Renzi said it was a beautiful flag. The stark contrast of bright colors. And Mrs. Renzi said the flag represented sacrifice, that people had died for our flag. Then Mr. Ferguson come in and he said, if you got the U.S. flag at home, children, you got to take it down tonight. But we didn't like him as much. Then I saw the flag on the moon, and at our basketball games, and at the Olympics, and on the altar at church. I learned that Mrs. Renzi was pretty S-M-A-R-T, and Mrs. Renzi was right. If we could invite back to Lakeview the men who died in war for a homecoming, they wouldn't recognize much at our Veterans Memorial. When they died, all of them, there was no Air Force, no Pentagon, no U.S. Department of Defense. They didn't know about donor sidewalks or pavement lighting, and they wouldn't recognize many names down there. And they wouldn't care, and that's okay because the donors' names aren't important here, and it's wrong to eliminate them. They cared about 2 things, getting a girl down to Arrowhead and the United States flag. The girl married someone else, and she's gone, but the flag's still here. And if our honored visitors look up in the shadows right now, they'd say, Harvey, isn't that our flag? I can see a stripe. The best way to honor those who died for the flag is to honor the flag they died for. This is a commitment for all of us. It's an active thing, an endeavor. Every day this nation keeps going, we got a new responsibility to keep that flag up. Every time you see that flag whip up high, it's like a clock. Another second, our nation's experiment successful. If you see a problem, call it in. It's our responsibility to keep that flag going. every minute of every hour, 24 hours a day, from here on out, forever. There are no excuses. Tree branches and funding and the budget and wires underground. We need to figure this out as a community, together if you will. And if we 1,000 people can't figure this out, I offer to fly in a lighting consultant, and I bet they'll laugh at how easy this project is. The best way to honor those who died for the flag is to honor the flag they died for. Thank you.
So John, your comment is that it's not illuminated correctly.
It's not illuminated 5%. It's not illuminated. There's no dedicated lighting to that, and I put 2 or 3 lights on that thing and make it glorious.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Pause me.
Okay, consent agenda. Any additions or corrections? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mulder,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, Lois, do you wanna talk about the Christmas tree?
Where we last left off last time, we were waiting for Mr. Bill to come back to decide where we were gonna decide to put the tree, whether it be in the middle of the road or at the municipal building. Have you given any thought to it, Bill, or?
About the intersection,
Mhm.
I think with the bump outs there, it'd be too tight in that area.
So you're thinking that in front of the municipal building, you'd be able to
Oh, yeah, you know,
put the electricity to it and everything like that? Okay. Okay, that's fine. I know where let's see. We have raised about 150 from the memorial, so we're now 160 with Mr. Dave here. So, we raised that, and the stand, I did ask Phillips Manufacturing, but they kind of backed out of it because they don't do powder coating. So Mark Stansberry does, so he'd be able to make the whole stand, and it's gonna be like the old time tree stands, where remember he screwed it in on all 4 sides, and then it's gonna have pegs on it, so it's gonna weigh quite a bit. So, but he's gonna deliver it and everything, and that's around 350 with the powder coating. And then Amanda Bangford and her sister are doing the tree shopping. Since I always pick Charlie Brown trees, they decided to go ahead and find a Rockefeller Center tree. And then Pam Willison is the treasurer, so we did start an account at the bank called the Lakeview Memorial Tree Fund. Connie Eason, so kindly is gonna put it on Facebook. And we're gonna have a resort in the ad. And then Linda Drilling, talking with Scott, I think we need 10 strings of lights that are 17 feet long, right? So we'll have to check Menards and see what that is, because I don't think Linda Drilling has enough to,
I would suggest maybe go through the Lumiere.
yeah, and maybe try the Lumiere and see if we can get some from there. Yeah, because we're hoping the tree's gonna be 20 foot, if not bigger. So, and then we can do on the December 8th at the Christmas Carol Candyland. Then if anybody wants their pictures taken with Santa, they can, or any family wants to go up and have their pictures taken. And of course, we're doing the memorial, which will be on Facebook, and then the paper one, we're ready to do it by the 8th.
So you're sure that the stand is going to fit the tree?
Oh, yeah, yeah, Mark's gonna get together with Amanda, take the measurements. Once she picks out a tree at the tree farm, then they're gonna get together and make sure that the tree will be in there, so.
Okay.
And you're asking the city pay for the stand?
No, from our memorial fund thing, it's gonna be an overwhelming thing once it hits the paper, so,
You're just asking for a place to put it.
yeah, the tree. And city to put up the lights, yeah, Bill, I'm sure Bill can help out with that.
He's
Well,
got a free
the
day.
city will have to put up the tree, right?
Yeah.
Are you smiling, Bill?
Larry said he'd help us.
It's a great job, great job.
I think we ought to have a motion to allow the tree to be placed on the city property.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Boltman,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Congratulations, Lois, here's mine.
Yeah,
Awesome.
done a
Thank
lot
you.
of work. Yeah, thank you for
Can you
the
pay
work.
more than $5?
Sure.
Now you make me look bad.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on the request from Stock Popcorn, Jimmy and Jenny Stock. Is there any input from the public?
Just that we sent out notice to all of the required neighbors, and actually the only neighbors that we heard from were the American Legion, and they were just inquiring about it more than anything and didn't have any concerns about it. Other than that, it received no comments. The issue was brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they would recommend approval of the rezoning request.
We close the public hearing. Resolution 1849 is authorizing that preparation amendment.
I'll make a motion to reauthorize resolution 1849.
Second,
I'll second it. Well, go ahead. That's right.
roll call.
Boltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
And we'll also need a motion to approve the egress, ingress for that easement.
Yeah, I want to show this to you and make sure that everybody's cool with this idea. If we would look at. Thank you. The page, this, obviously I scrolled up to number 9.
9. 6.
I can probably do that.
The page after 8A,
Okay.
that would be the proposed location of that easement in my opinion. Okay, you see that it's not up at the intersection of 4th Street, but it's,
So my question, because my only concern with this has always been the easement. So if the easement is not at 4th Street coming in, which, you know, it doesn't really matter right now, but what if you did have something built there, constructed there? Is this perpetual easement then gonna be a problem?
It is perpetual, and that's the notion, is that, you know, we'd hate to put it in a spot where you feel like you're chopping up that parcel of land.
That's exactly right.
So this does not chop it in half, you know, it's further to the south.
Okay.
Any more questions? We have a motion to approve that.
Hey, Mayor.
Jim?
I guess, can I see where that is proposed to be?
Is that enough to make the swing?
Don't know. With our measurements, we were planning 120 feet long on the building, which we might go back past that. Don't. We have the building here, back to about here, that's what
That'll be enough to make the turn.
we make the turn in.
This, yeah, it's proposed to be 190 feet north of the north right-of-way line of 3rd Street.
Only 90 feet.
And the building's how long?
We're thinking 120, but we don't know how far setback it's gonna be for this building. On this corner. If we set it back far enough for them to be able to use that door.
Can we have a motion to put it back 20 feet from the building end, or not?
Well, we need to have a legal description for where the easement's gonna be. And we can figure that out later. But we just wanna make sure everybody's okay with that idea then, because it pushes it further to the north and kind of makes the city property to the north smaller.
So do you think we should stake it out first before, sort of
we know
I
exactly.
guess that's probably a good way to look at it, is it just doesn't have to happen yet, so.
That way you know for sure where, it's easier to see than to guess. That's all we're doing right now is guessing, so
Yeah.
we can get it staked out of some sort and then see how that lays out for that. Because I don't think this is something that needs to get done right
No,
today.
right away. No, that, just that 190 feet, Jimmy, just know that that lined up with the driveway to Doug Lights' garage.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the reference point.
Probably we would be back then. That would probably work, I would think.
Well, we can wait
You
till
know,
we're sure.
I
need
think
to- need to
we're all
raise
in
the building
favor
out and
of
find
giving
out.
you an easement, obviously,
Yeah.
just,
Just wanna know where it's
Yeah.
at. So there's no,
Just don't want the easement right in the middle of the building.
right,
So we can't even use it.
right.
yeah, okay.
Okay, now Larry wants an easement. Is that correct, Larry?
There was an easement from day one when we made the agreement, you guys are just coughing it up.
And that's true.
Very
That
true.
When we, in that purchase agreement for the land with, for the lagoon, the city had said that we would grant an ingress and egress easement. If you look at page 14, that actually describes where the easement is. Comes down that access road out there, comes down the east side of the lagoons. It's actually there. This is all on on a road out there that's in for our maintenance purposes then too. Follows that road to the south on the east side of the lagoon. And when it gets down a little bit, right by that the location of the lift station, then Larry would actually turn off of the road, crosses a little bit of grass there in order to get into his property. There are gates at that south location, and then there's also a gate at the road entrance. Okay? Larry had then requested permission to put in a gate on that south fence line adjacent to the access road. So that's how he would access that little parcel, directly to the south of the access road. So I think we've got everything covered. Larry seemed pretty pleased with it, and it's ready for action.
We haven't given these with
This is the formal easement. We had agreed to this in the purchase document. We just basically were waiting for a legal description of it.
Oh, so we can change our minds.
So you just need a motion to approve.
Yes.
Then I can change my mind?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Over.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Boltman.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Another lagoon-related issue then while we're talking lagoon. As the contractor's putting in the water main down the ditch, they ended up opening a spring on the north side of the bridge. So it's in the ditch, but it's on the north side of that bridge, and it is a substantial spring out there. It's causing lots of trouble. There's lots of water sitting in the ditch. County is concerned about that in the ditch. The neighboring landowner is Steve Watts. Steve's concerned about that. I know Bill's concerned about that then too. We talked with our engineer about whose responsibility it is to fix this paving then. It is not the contractor's responsibility. It would fall back to the city.
Usually does.
We had a tiling firm come look at putting in what amounts to about 2,000 feet of tile there. And anyway, cost estimate on that $9,026.
Probably a pretty good sized tile.
It's a sock tile too, so it's a 6-inch sock tile. Anything on that, Bill?
We can get more bids.
This is just one price, yeah.
We better get more than one at that price.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, we'll do.
When does it have to be completed? I mean, is it delaying the project?
It is not. It is not. The water main is in, and that's basically finished. The contractor has to do their finished grading on the ditch and everything yet, but that won't be done likely until basically the project is coming to completion after the sewer's been installed.
So the
So,
fire hydrant down in the ditch, you know, about 4 foot below level.
yeah,
What are they gonna do about that? Put an extension on that, or how are they gonna do that?
boy, it looks low, like I say, they're not done,
Oh, it's-
they're not done with the finished grade on that ditch yet. But,
Gonna have an awful deep ditch there.
yeah,
I mean, but I don't
I don't have an answer for you, Terry, I'd have to find out.
I mean,
Cause there's a fire hydrant right in the middle of the ditch. Kind of, seems like a strange location, but it's right at the bottom of the ditch.
it seems to me like they should put about, I'd put a pipe on it, you know, so. I mean, to make it work, you know, but I don't know. I don't know how that.
Yep.
We'll open the public hearing on the urban renewal plan. We have no public input.
I have heard no comments on the proposed amendment to the urban renewal. The amendment's on page 15 and 16. The area does include adding some area to it, so this has been presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is recommended for approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission to add that area. And then on page 18, you can see what all of the areas are from our original plan, and then the 4 amendments to it now.
No public input. Oh, go ahead, Dorothy.
I have a question. Do you have a copy of that available to the public
A copy of
of the,
Yeah, I can get you a copy.
okay, thank you.
We'll close the public hearing. Resolution 1850 is approving that urban plan.
Make the motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Muller,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Waltman, Reese,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 1851 is authorizing a loan to the TIF fund.
Yeah, so this would authorize a loan from the electric improvement fund to the TIF fund of $165,000. So as we just approved that amendment, those were the costs that were stated in that amendment, then also about the proposed uses. So this then allows us to certify debt and allows us to keep receiving those TIF funds then in the upcoming budget year.
So wait a minute. I didn't think it said anything about the cost. I thought we were doing the renewal area.
It is. There's some estimated cost about what the costs are. You know, in the amendment, we stipulate uses as far as what it can be used for.
Right.
And then there's that estimated project cost with each one of them.
We have a motion on 1851.
I'll make it.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
Thank you.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Muller,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Walton.
Now we have to approve the annual urban renewal report.
And this is a state requirement on filing the actions from our urban renewal districts. So there's a resolution to do that on page 19, but several pages of the report begin on page 20. The thing to really of note, I'd point you to 22. Those are the outstanding obligations yet as it pertains to the Boulders infrastructure project, Sac Beach infrastructure project, and then what we call Camp Crescent Phase 2. That there's still $200,000 of our original $300,000 to repay to ourselves. Remembering that this is at the end of June.
We have a motion on 1852.
I'll make it.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call.
Thank you.
Yes.
Muller,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Waltman,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, we want to talk about some incentives for the downtown projects.
Yeah. think of this in terms of, all the downtown projects that were going on. So we got a lot of good stuff going on downtown with these projects that are potential or are starting. So on page 23, you see a draft of a development agreement, and then that's between the city and Heath Carroll for the redevelopment of that building at 408 Main Street. Then we'll also have that Moore building, which we will be applying for that Catalyst grant for. And we need to discuss how the city would provide matching funds for that grant. And then the other things that are still pending are the old Huss building, that Bogues are right in the middle of their demolition on that, and that's coming along pretty well. They still intend to have the demolition done by spring. And then also the other Bogue building would be the dentist, Doc Bogue's building across the street in the old TJ's place. And there's work pending on that then too. So
Timeline for him?
I haven't heard anything.
So we have to match funds for all these.
We need to match funds for that grant application, to put a good-looking grant application forward.
So,
Do we need to for everything? That would just become a policy decision of the council.
so you mean that's gonna end up costing him very little if that would go through, he gets the grant plus what we give him, match that
It's
grant?
still, well, no, it wouldn't match that grant.
No, we're not matching that.
Yeah, we're good.
That's what it's not.
We would apply for this grant, it's a $100,000 grant. And I'd just tell you that I'd make a recommendation to the council that if we match that, we'd match it with $25,000.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we participate in the grant program for $25,000 from the city.
And I'll second that.
Roll call.
Okay, Thomas,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes,
Boltman,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
but we don't have to match that until that goes through.
It's only if it's successful, but I do want to continue that discussion then about those other projects. So the city is going to be a financial partner in this grant application. And would the city look to be a financial partner in these other projects that are going on? Particularly in regards to Heath Carroll's project.
Well, I think if we're going to commit to helping someone with a grant for one business, we need to help the other businesses too. Might not be to the same degree, it kind of depends on what their project is, I think. There's a lot of other grants and revolving loan programs out there, so it kind of depends, I think, on where their personal financial obligation is. But I think that we should have a policy.
So where we gonna get all this money?
TIF money. These are the projects that we just approved for that amendment.
That's right.
Can it be well, it can't be a case by case basis,
Well, not if you're gonna look at policy, which I,
because the grants won't be as substantial
No.
either.
No, and there's so many different, and there's these revolving loans, and I almost think it is a case by case, but yet it seems to me like maybe you need to have an overall policy so that it doesn't look like
Right.
you're preferential or, so I'm not exactly sure, but
Maybe I go by percentage and instead of dollar.
of their investment.
Well, say if it's, the 100,000 is, say, a fourth of the 100,000, you know? If you went, say if it ended up 60,000, it'd be 15,000,
I've been thinking something similar along those lines, Barry, but not that much.
Well, I just-
Moore's total project is something a little over $200,000. I want you all to take a look at then, did you see that thing that Heath Carroll had
Yes.
laid there? That was his new timeline for undertaking these phases of the project, but then he also put his cost on. So his cost there is $120,000. To me, the city can participate in this and use TIF funds to do it, but in my mind, it's something along the lines of 10% of the investment. and
But-
setting a maximum of what that would be.
But your investment can not only be just cash, it can be in kind. So like the $4,000 difference between the purchase price and the selling price, you know, that's a financial commitment, isn't it? I mean, I would think so.
Mhm.
So, so we sold the building for 8,000, right?
Right.
So, our original plan was to, if we couldn't get it finished, we were gonna take it down, that was gonna cost us that much more. My feeling is that we sell it for $1 for, that's part of the commitment towards the, helping out the individual, which would amount to about 8,000. And if there's any other ways that you think about something, raising any more money than that to get to the 10% or something.
Mhm.
I don't know, Dave, is that a doable thing, or is that a,
Well, the concept's doable, we have to have some money go back and forth, if we're gonna do it that way.
but,
We want to make sure that, that our financial input into that project is made when the project is completed, kind of, you know?
Right.
Like an incentive.
Right, I think if you're gonna get into the development agreement here in a minute, we'll be covering some of that.
Okay.
Because if you wanted to look at that, why about basically saying, you know, we would give them an incentive of the cost of the building. It's just that it would recommend an $8,000 incentive payment at the end of the project to reimburse it.
Right, instead of selling it for $1, I think that sounds better.
But we are already investing so much money towards the inspection aspect.
Yeah, it was about $1,200 some.
Did that get done, or?
No, it's not done yet. It is scheduled. It likely occurs for both buildings next week.
So, Dave, do you have any suggestion about what kind of a policy we could have? Instead of saying a flat rate percentage, or some way that we can do it on a case-by-case basis, but still make sure that that's not construed as being unfair? We've discussed this off and on for a long time, and we haven't really come up with a great plan.
The policy would have to address how you calculate the investment, if you're gonna use a percentage. So, like you were saying, like kind plus dollars invested, you know, that probably should be addressed, on, Mr. Carroll's project. You know, looks to me like he's doing a lot of sweat equity in that one, so that would be one thing to look at. Or you could just base it solely on their costs out of pockets and base it on a percentage of that.
I wondered that, if we could just do a percentage of their actual cost, not the grants and not the revolving loans and not their, you know, if they're borrowing money from a bank, not based on any of that project, but only their initial, their own financial.
Right. Well, his estimate, I saw in the paperwork, was $120,000 out of pocket, it looked like. And so if you go 10% on that, that'd be 12. The building's being sold for 8, so somewhere in that neighborhood, I would think, you know, 8, 10, 12, whatever they're comfortable with.
So we could come up with a percentage of the owners or investors' personal, because we talked about this with the sale of a property out here earlier, that let's say they borrowed, let's say it cost $500,000 for this particular business, and they don't have any, well, let's say they have $25,000 of their own money and they're gonna finance the rest of it through a bank. And our incentive should be based on their $25,000 more so than this money that they have. Is that possible to do that? Because if you base it on the whole project and they walk a year in, we've given them a commitment on money that was never ever invested. You know, it was a loan from the bank and the loan took it over, the bank took it over or whatever, and we're kinda out.
Right.
And that's what I was afraid of.
Well, yeah, obviously the policy would have to be that the money doesn't change hands until we're satisfied with the completion of the project. Success. And again, that's what we're trying to accomplish in this development agreement on the Annabelle building, is what I call it. 403.
408.
But yeah,
It's got my second address, 408.
All right.
well,
Have you been staying there?
No. Just toured it a few times.
yeah, I guess I do look at this as two issues though. That as we're gonna talk through this development agreement, there's a spot in there to insert a payment amount. And we would need to know what that would be, but I'd still also like to look at this big picture as far as determining policy on it. And how you can apply policy to our other projects that are going on and then future projects also.
So have we ever gotten any kind of things that other communities are doing that have gone through a lot of this, like for instance Woodbine and Manning and,
You know, I've got lots of examples of test policies and stuff, but they're a
but
little,
not incentives?
yeah, not strictly incentive policy.
Could we get something, do you think?
We can try.
I think it would be helpful if we had a little guideline.
There's different formats. The revolving loan fund, it's a forgivable loan, and it's forgiven as the project is completed, that type of thing. So there's different ways you can incentivize that.
Okay.
You can give them the money, and then as they progress, you can forgive the loan payments annually over 5 years. I know some of the smaller towns do that.
So do you have some examples of incentives?
I can get my hands on
that you-
some.
okay. You're just gonna donate that, aren't you? I'd like to see something, I guess, to go by.
Well, we'll wait till next meeting, see if we got some stuff.
With that though, you wanna talk through that development agreement a little bit there, Dave?
Okay.
Find it here. Page 23. Scott had drafted up a format for development agreement. I went back through and reworked it somewhat. And as you can see in paragraph 1 of this particular agreement with Mr. Carroll, the developer will pay $8,000 upon the execution of a real estate contract. So we're talking about a document in addition to this development agreement. The real estate contract would be the one you're probably familiar with, which we call for installment payments, but it would also incorporate a lot of the terms of this agreement, particularly the pre-development activities and the phases of development. So in a typical real estate contract, if a payment is not made, that would be cause for forfeiture if it wasn't cured within 30 days. This contract will state that if the phase 1 is developed on a schedule, that could cause the contract to be forfeited within 30 days. The idea being that we want to see progress made, and if not, we would take title back as the city. So the contract would convey legal title, which would enable Mr. Carroll to obtain financing if he should require that. But the equitable title would remain with the city until the contract terms are performed. So that's the essence of this. The development agreement has some things in it that you wouldn't normally put into a real estate contract, and then vice versa. So this development agreement is drafted to survive the execution of the real estate contract. So both documents will be in effect until the project is completed.
So you're saying we're gonna retain ownership until the project is completed?
Equitable title, it'd be kind of like a mortgage.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of legal distinction there, but the idea being that if the contract wasn't performed, that the city could forfeit the contract and recover title,
So would he be able
total
to,
title.
like if we have the title or whatever, or not title, would he be able to borrow money because we have the title?
Yes, he would be able to borrow money based upon having title through the contract. Be like if you're purchasing a property on a real estate,
So you kinda own it, but you don't.
you own it till you pay for it,
Yeah.
or in this case, until you perform.
So we would not have any liability during the construction?
Correct. Although that's another reason for transferring legal title so that Mr. Carroll would be able to obtain insurance on the various activities.
But, and that's what we're going to do?
Right.
Okay.
That's set forth in this, both agreements.
Okay, all right.
So then as you take a look, like starting on a couple things on page 24, there's pre-development activities. That's where the city's saying that we would pay for that asbestos inspection. And then if there's abatement required, it's the developer's responsibility for abatement. And that needs to be abated in the portion that he's working on. It needs to be abated before you start. Next page lays out those phases, and the timing on all of these phases was based upon his initial proposal to us, okay? What he just gave us today differs from that. So we would look to make a change on the
And
timeline.
he's kind of making allowances for weather though, isn't he, kind of, for changing it?
Somewhat. It's, the order of some things has changed, that he would get that retail space going first now. Work on the roof and then work on the retail space.
Yeah, definitely wanna get the roof done before.
Number one, you got, yeah. And on page 26, then it goes through all of the phases, in phase 4 and 5, and that's the basement and whatnot. And then you see item number 3 there in the middle, that this would propose, then that this has some type of incentive payment.
I think with the roof, Dave, he thinks that roofing is just a flashing thing. So when he's talking about the roof, I think he's talking about the construction part of it too, not, I think he already thinks he knows
Where he's,
where the issue is on the roof.
we know he's raising the middle portion of the roof and lowering the floor and there's some structure stuff there. We'll think about that in the incentive thing, we'll come back to that. Just know that tax abatement would be normal tax abatement for the city. There is an issue in there on financing about whether you could obtain finance if it fails, the agreement's null. Then we get into the amendments and the binding effect, and then number 9 is remedy. And that's really, that's that 30-day notice after hearing. So we give them notice that something has fallen short. He'd have 30 days to correct.
So how long would that tax payment be?
Our normal tax abatement program, so it's 5 years. 5 years, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30%. Okay, just understand that this is the city's draft of the agreement also, that Heath has not seen it. But that incentive payment portion, I think, is important, that we would need to make a decision on that sooner rather than later.
I think you need to see what Dave comes up with maybe in the end, or you talk about that, I don't know.
Well, I think,
Well, we have to have it in the agreement.
When's he gonna sign the agreement? Or ASAP or?
Well, you know, all that he's ever said, you know, is he would take a look at our, we will offer him the first draft of the agreement, he would take it to the attorney, and we'd go from there.
Mhm.
So the question is what kind of an incentive payment do we want? This is after phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, prior to the completion date of September 30th, 2019.
Yeah, and not knowing how that jives with his new timeline, you know, so that may change. But,
Because I think it's kind of I mean, I know that he gave us the initial timeline, but, I don't know, it just seems like kind of a push to me by September.
yeah, that did, I did not have him having any work done in the basement before September, but
I mean, for instance, you know, the other property for the catalyst grant has a 2-year completion.
Right, sure.
So I just don't wanna, I mean, obviously we want it done, I just don't wanna make it unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we did agree on 2 years, the other night,
You know, we
we
didn't,
was talking about 2
He
years.
talked about 2 years.
we didn't,
Or he did too, didn't he?
yeah, we just didn't deviate from his timeline that he proposed. So, what's in the agreement is the timeline that he proposed. You just think it's a little aggressive.
Well,
Well,
he can always get an extension, couldn't he?
he's making it, he wants to get it, be aggressive so he gets a return on investment as soon as possible. So I mean, that's an incentive there for him to do that. So we're talking about if we're gonna do the inspection for that, and then we got also the $8,000, so, you know, we don't know what kind of, what we'll find in there for the inspection, what kind of result will that be? So you can think about tying a percentage of that, if you say, let's say it's gonna cost $10,000 to take it out of there. City would give another 10%, up to a maximum of, and helping to get rid of that, if there was a problem with the inspection.
I think we would have to pay for that.
We don't.
No, but we have to be the owner in order to apply for a grant there are grants to abate asbestos, and we would have to be the owner.
Yes,
Correct?
that is correct.
Yeah, okay.
This does not propose that. That it would just be a private venture.
But Heath isn't worried about that.
Nope.
No, he's not worried about it at all.
What kind of dollar figure do you wanna come up with? That's,
Magic ball, isn't it?
Well, if we're paying for the test, and, I don't know,
What do you think about 10,000?
I don't like it. I've never bought a building that somebody gave me money.
Not gonna go there.
That's good, because that's my feeling on that. I think I've said it a few times.
We gotta make a commitment to something showing that we're involved in it.
But we're uninvolved as soon as we sell it to them.
Kind of, but we-
But you guys are trying to, you're trying to keep it running by, you know, you wanna run the show after he has ownership. I mean, I don't think that can happen.
We're just trying to give him an incentive to finish the project.
Well-
And we're giving Nate Kelly, you know, some
Yeah, but they're
assistance.
applying for a grant, and if we don't get the grant, they ain't gonna do it, so. But that, we have nothing to say about that right now, right?
Well, yeah, we've just committed that match, you know, if it comes to be.
Well, I don't know. So we're gonna pay him 10,000 plus the 8,000?
No.
No.
He's paying the city.
He's paying the city $8,000 for the property.
$28?
Well, I was thinking 8, given it, you know, it'd be like, once the project's done, then give him his money back, you know.
I'm good with that.
and that's a good idea.
we need a motion on that. We need a motion to put that dollar amount in that contract.
I would so move.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
Okay, Wolfman.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Muller.
Yes.
Reese.
No.
Okay, we gotta figure out how to pay for the nuisance abatement at the Reardon salvage yard. Which was high priced.
Yeah.
Who was?
Take a look at page 29 in the council packet first.
It wasn't gonna get any better, so.
I guess I'll just, would tell you that I'm gonna recommend that we would pay for the second tip. Couple things that I want to point out to you. This is the running balance of our TIF account, and I've circled a couple of the numbers. In the upper right, I've circled that 342,000. That's the anticipated balance at the end of June this year. We got to pay a little debt service yet for this year, but that would be the anticipated balance. It's
The
342.
446? I wanna make sure I'm with you on that.
Is this circled number
342,
342, 294?
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's an important thing though, Vicki. That's the balance of that TIF fund, but I also circled 304 at the bottom. Okay, that's in addition to that. So,
So the total is 6,
yeah,
48?
648, 646.
Where did we get that much? I thought we had 300,000. I thought we had that 304,530 in our TIF account right now.
That's the amount that we had from that last amendment. We were gonna do those other projects. They haven't been
Right.
done,
Right.
okay? But,
So we have this 304.
yep. Also, then, just as you look up there at that 342, we just transferred $165,000 into,
Okay.
that's part of it. So,
So we got 102.59 from Evapco, right?
yeah, yep.
Okay, so that's what we got in, was the 165.
Yes, we just transferred that in.
And so you're looking at what's gonna come in this year for 2019, and that's how you're getting to this 342?
That's just the balance. That's the actual cash balance of what it is.
Right now.
Yeah.
So why does it say 6/1/2019?
Because we gotta pay some debt service there. You see, over there on the right side, we paid $6,293 and $21,400.
Right,
Okay, those are obligations we gotta make yet this fiscal year.
okay, so this will be the end of our fiscal year.
Yep.
And then I thought you said that this is the last year we were getting Evapco, but,
Well, that's why we just certified more debt then, so that we could get it for the remaining life of
Evapco?
Evapco, which is next
till
year and following.
2021?
Yeah, well, that's a 20, it is through, we'll get the last payment in 11 of 20,
20.
which
Okay.
is fiscal year 21.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. So, when we looked at those incentive payments, those would come out of this TIF portion. But I'd also recommend that we would pay the Reardon cleanup bills out of that too.
I don't know, I understand what you're saying, I don't think that's really economic development down there, although it can be in a way you wanna go around about it to get there.
I think
I know.
It
I
is,
know.
but it's also a definite expenditure for TIF funds.
No, not really, I mean,
Well, it
you're
is
having to
if you
kinda
get-
go around the block to get there is what I'm saying, because I understand, I'm not totally against this. I'm just saying that it's not really economic development. It was a bad thing we needed to get done, and we did, and it cost a lot, it had to be done. But there will be no income coming off of that to go back into TIF. Maybe.
Well, which is true, but if you look at what TIF is to be used for,
It's to be used for economic development.
and the cleanup of blighted buildings, for example, on Main Street.
Right.
What if we tore down that building at 408 Main Street? There'd still be no money coming back. We'd still, if it was 25,000.
But blight is kind of a different thing of TIF.
Well, if you look at the reasons to use TIF financing, cleaning up that Reardon property, which was in the TIF district, is listed as one of the uses for TIF funds. Just like tearing down a blighted building down on Main Street that we would have done if we wouldn't have taken the process we just did.
Right,
If we did clean it up, it was gonna continue and just. be-
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all agree it had to be done.
But there is a chance that it's
We
going,
won't be receiving any return on it.
but there.
Not for a while.
Not for a while, but there's an option for it to develop into something. The
Yeah.
right person comes along, so I didn't, nobody was coming along if we wouldn't have cleaned it up. It's that
Right.
simple.
Right.
We
Does
just
the
gotta
city-
pay
the
for it
city own
now,
that now then?
move forward.
No,
It still would have been
Oh,
a rat attraction.
Right, so, the money that's in the lost fund, what plan, I mean, the balance at the end of June of fiscal year 19 is 56,000.
yeah,
Can we not take some of that for this Reardon project?
you know, you can, and I don't want to keep throwing you a bunch of curveballs, but we're gonna talk about that Terrell development tonight too, and we need to fund water service out there, and that would be a great place for the
I
water
see.
service.
Okay, all right, okay, I'm with you.
So what would everybody like to do?
Say it.
Anybody bring their checkbook?
I would make a motion that we use TIF funds to pay that bill for that improvement on that property.
Second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Bolton. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Mulder.
No.
Reese.
yes.
Tom.
Yes.
It looks like that.
Yep, it looks like
It
that.
does, I hope something positive
What was
comes
the
out.
cost?
Argue that.
It was
123,
123.
yeah.
was a big,
Big chunk.
42 loads
it
went
was
to
about like
landfill.
the sewer plant miss. The weather didn't help.
And it exposed some other problems down
Too
there.
bad we couldn't have got all the trees out with it, then it would have been worse than money.
Yes. We didn't have permission for that.
I know.
No, we.
Okay, Lake, Hometown Pride wants to do something about pickle court.
Yep.
Connie?
What we would like to do is put a pickleball court upstairs in this building where they were doing Zumba, so that we can play indoors. Vicki and I measured it. It's long enough, it's not, or it's wide enough, but not quite long enough. But we need to get a net, and the net is like $160. It's a portable net that can go in there, just so that all of us that play can play during the winter. So I just need to know, I hate to even ask this today after listening to all the bills, but we're hoping that the council would approve to pay for the net.
So, I've gotta ask what pickleball in there heard of it.
It's kind of a cross between tennis, it's old people tennis, that's what I call it.
We just had that discussion earlier.
It's a huge thing on the East Coast and down south. So a lot
Yeah,
of people,
exactly.
a lot of people that go south play it. It's with a net, it's with a oversized ping pong paddle, and it has a wiffle ball like thing.
It's very good exercise.
What nights would you have this on?
Well, I don't think we would do it at night, we would probably do it during the day.
Can't you just take a donation for that?
But we have to get the net ahead of time, that's why. We haven't talked about if we're gonna charge, I don't think so. We usually go over to SAC during the summer and play. And they have 2 wonderful outdoor courts, and it's free to play over there. So we just thought for those of us that don't go south for the winter, you know, that it would be a place they could play. It's more lifestyle than anything, you know. I just think it would be a nice thing to have. Plus, it kind of gives us an idea of whether or not we should have one here, an outdoor court here.
How many people play?
Oh golly, yeah, there's a lot.
There's quite a few.
And there's people that drive from Storm Lake all the way to Sac to play.
Oh, really?
First thing in the morning.
Wall Lake that would come
There's
over here to
people in
play.
Wall Lake that would like to play.
Yeah,
And the net was how much?
about $160 is
I'll
what I
make a
pulled up.
motion that we purchase the pickleball net.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
You was like pickleball, but.
Oh, it's
No, I
fun.
can't, I can guarantee you, with my back and knees, I ain't playing nothing.
Well, that's the nice thing about it. Everybody can play. I mean, it's not.
No, I don't think so.
Roll call?
Okay, Tom.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes,
Mulder.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bolton.
I'm all for extra.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Okay, we want to transfer some splash pad fundraising to the Lakeview Foundation.
Yep, this would just be the remaining balance in that in the Splash Pad fundraising council to go to the foundation and then be held in account for future projects relating to the splash.
I'll make the motion, Jim.
I'll second the transfer.
Roll call.
Muller,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Waltman, Reese.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
How much is in the fund?
1669.22.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about High Street Alley. I'm sure everybody's waiting for that.
Hey, council, take a look at page 31 in the back. So, at the last council meeting, we had discussed options for establishing price on that, and whether we would look at taking bids on it, or whether we'd look at a broker's opinion. So on page 31 is a broker's opinion with Gary Wicker and Court Storgel working together to give this opinion. So the opinion basically says that they would value each parcel at $750 if there is access to each parcel. So you flip to page 32, that's that plat of it again, where you see parcel A, B, C, D, E, and F. You know, so the idea there is the parcel C and D, you know, that they would still have access across all of the other parcels to be able to get to that. And that was an important, accessibility was an important consideration to them when they were coming up with the value of the property. So as they look at that, really a couple of options about how you could still retain accessibility to that. That it could be, first of all, that every parcel can give easement to the owner of every other parcel. And that would just be private accesses through there. I would also propose they'd give easement to the city. But, so they'd have all of those easements on the property. Or the other thing that was floated was the idea of moving the alley. That you just move the alley further to the east. As you're looking at this diagram, on the right side, or this is the east side of the diagram, the city retained 20 feet outside of those lots. So if we would look at relocating that alley, you could say that it would either be on that 20 feet or the first 20 feet inside of these platted lots.
So the alley width is about 20 feet?
20 feet would be standard.
So we would have another 20 feet to the east of these lots.
Yes.
Everything would move, okay? I think moving the alley, Gary Wicker suggested that, I think it's a great idea. I think moving the alley is the way to go. Gives everybody access, you still get your land. The city still has a little extra land if that trail ever comes down through there, which is what we would like. I know you guys probably don't, but we'd like to see a trail come in there, so we just think it's a good thing for everybody.
Is the alley gonna be marked?
So what they're talking is,
That alley.
Is it gonna be marked?
Would it be marked as in signed
The
or
way you can
having?
go in and the way you can go out.
It would not be standard for us to sign the alleys or anything, no.
Well, a lot of them do to be able to get in and out.
You know, I guess that it's an important question about if you're going to look at moving that alley to be what would basically be the east 20 feet then of these lots, okay? Then you need to decide what happens to parcel G, which is that south alley access there between Hawkups and Carroll. That if you're gonna have the alley open in back, it still makes a lot of sense for that parcel G to remain an open alley also.
Well, we get found with that.
I thought we were always gonna leave that one open.
Well, that was still kind of up in the air, you know, and so Jim had made that request, but I know Londa wasn't too excited about it, so.
Well, it's still.
My
gonna-
thing is, I'm fine if it's left open if I've got access to it to stay parking on it.
Right.
And I'd like it written that way so you guys can't come tell me off of it.
Well, if the
I'm
alley,
getting
but if the
older and to go
alleys,
from that garage up
Right.
to my house is just,
but if the alley's there, is that the access you're talking about?
yeah, that's what I use now,
Right.
but I just wanna make sure I'm not gonna get towed off of it.
Are you talking about so if we move the alley 20 feet,
That back part makes no difference to me, I don't give a crap about it.
so that's not how you're gonna access.
Mine is my driveway, it's what comes from the street into my house,
I don't know why.
between our houses, mine and
Because they're not gonna
Jim's.
move snow off of it.
So
They never
what-
have.
what-
I've moved snow off of it for 32 years now.
So was it a problem, or what? I don't understand that
Oh, it-
issue.
It was just that they wanted the backside, some of them did, and I don't, like I said, I never did care
The
much about
backside of
it.
your property?
The alleys all moved.
The only thing I got to say is I want access to my lots.
If we move
And
the
if you
alley,
ask, I'll move my car, you know that.
if we
Why in the
move,
hell should I have to ask you?
Hey, fine, then you make sure you park on,
No, you make
Far
sure you
enough.
park not in the alley.
so,
so if we move the alley, doesn't that fix this issue?
no, because the alley moves, I still can't use it.
We're gonna leave the alley where it was.
Well, partial G,
How are you guys working it out right now?
I park there.
I would have been real nice about it until this. No more nice.
I won't understand.
So parcel G is still gonna be open. It opens up to the alley. If we move the alley, it still opens up to that new alley, right?
Yep.
And then there's there's access all the way across on the east side and then out on the north side. Is that not right?
that is correct, yep.
So why would we not move the alley?
And it's fine to move the alley, cause you're just talking the back part.
Right.
Just move the alley
My
where it
thing
was.
was that I wanna make sure I can still use that alley to park on when I've been paying to clean it off and keep it clean. That I would just like to park there. I'm getting older and it's harder to get, where my driveway is down in front of that garage that I can't add onto because city stuff's behind it.
I guess I don't understand where you're parking.
In the alley,
In parcel G?
the cemented alley part of it.
What that was is when, what's his name was the mayor. The guy that had the coast to coast, or not coast to coast, yeah, it was coast to coast, wasn't it? But when he was the mayor, where she's living and where I'm living, he was living. They come up with this idea for the county,
Okay.
and that's where this come about. But that is the alley.
I agree with that. I mean, it's the alley.
Why don't we just leave the alley where it is?
Well, you can, but if Londa's asking for some assurance that it'll always be a private parking area, you know, I don't know who to make that assurance.
We're gonna leave it the way it was.
I parked there for 32 years, that's all I wanted was to be able to park there.
I'm talking about the alley that runs north to south behind these properties. That's the alley I'm talking
Yep,
about.
okay,
I wasn't talking about this parcel G, which is an alley.
Right.
yep.
We're just gonna leave that one alone.
Yes.
That still doesn't take care of Lana's problem.
I'd asked years ago if I could get an easement that'd let me park there, and they tell me they don't do that.
Well, if we leave the alley the way it is, nothing's gonna change for you guys, right? Just what it is?
Just working together, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
No, we want to move the alley.
Not there, you don't.
We're not talking that one. You're just talking about alley G.
Yeah.
Yeah, alley G. That's
Okay.
what I'm talking.
I'm with you,
The other
John.
one,
All right.
Yes. That'll solve
I
that.
just wanna make sure I don't get towed off if I park there,
Yeah.
Well, you're parking on public ground.
and I have for 31 years.
I'm not
We're
arguing that.
talking
I'm
about
just
two
saying.
separate things here, right?
Someone says, yeah, I mean, if, just assuming that you don't sell or vacate parcel G, it's just status quo with you guys. Okay?
Jim's not gonna be happy. Cause it
It's just like
blocks,
when I was mowing the yard.
it blocks your access.
To run out of gas, I had to go get my pickup and run through my lawn to take gas back out there. I'm old, I can't carry a big gas.
But if you got the alley back, will that help you out and going out the other direction?
Not if you can't get to it.
I got, my land, there's actually like 4 lots there. And that's all open back there. I gotta mow it, do this and that. and I'd like to have access to it. I was also thinking about putting a garage on that very back one. So I could, get rid of 3 little sheds. And just put one
So, are you able to go through,
big. No,
no, listen, let me finish. Are you able to go through this damn alley G? Clear back to where the new alley would be? Or is that because you can't get through
I
there
don't
because
care if I
Londa's
get to
parked
that new
there?
alley.
Well, isn't this new alley gonna get, or if we move the alley, then you guys all have this land right across the back there, no?
Yes. we
She's,
have
the
access to
last
back.
lot is Londa's.
What?
That, where she's gonna add to her lot is the last lot that's for sale.
I'm not adding anything, it's gonna stay the way it is now. But if my driveway comes, okay, the alley between your house and mine comes down, it'll be the same as it is now.
Right, we're not changing it.
And I have no other way to get through to my garage than that alley, and I admit this. But I'm also getting older and that hill is a booger on my body to walk up from the garage. That's the reason I was asking for access to park, which I, like I said, we've done forever. But
So, when you park there, and it's a 20-foot wide alley, you're only, how many
No,
cars
it's-
are parked there at once?
it's just wide enough for one car on it.
The
Of what
flat
now?
alley's 20 feet.
Of what got cemented.
I believe that, but, I mean, the right-of-way, the public right-of-way is 20 feet wide.
So,
Anybody else have any input?
so when, if you move the alley back, and you got the 20 feet by the tree line, this is where Gary and I thought was by the tree line. When you get to Londa's lot, at the end of that, where do you go from there? Because it's all private property after that.
The alley comes from.
Yeah, down, and the alley comes back to,
Back down
back towards,
from us,
to the
yeah.
west, to High Street.
True. Yep, and that's,
No choice.
So you,
That's
you know,
just the
you're
way
talking,
it's always
you're
been.
talking about putting a trail. So right now, your alleyway comes here and then goes down here. This is all private property. So if you move the alleyway here, you're still doing this. I mean, you're not changing much,
That's what I'm saying.
other than this little area here.
Well, apparently that's where she's parking.
No, she parks right here
Oh,
on High Street.
oh.
This is where she's talking about. So, but my concern is even if you move the alleyway back there, if you wanna put a trail in, it stops right here, or it comes back this way.
Well, if the alley isn't here and it's here, then you gain 20 feet in there. All these lots get pushed back 20 feet, right?
And, I mean, I'm assuming that they'll lose the 20 feet here, you're not gonna be on the 20 feet on this side of it.
Like we will if we move the alley. This is the railroad right away.
You're still on
that's in Porter Street. South, from Jim Carroll's on south, it's all private property. It is not a through public way.
Right, but
It's a U.
my understanding is, right, you're gonna take 20 feet from this,
Yeah,
you're getting the same amount of property, except for,
yeah, so that 20 feet would be, right?
if you had vacated the alley, then you would have given the whole 50 feet.
Right.
They're not getting this, because they won't get.
So now they're only gonna get 30 feet,
Right,
correct?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
right.
But my point is if you're trying to put a trail in there, you're only gonna be able to go right here, and then you have to go west to High Street. Otherwise, you're going through private property.
But the snowmobiles are doing it right now.
Well, I understand that,
That's up to them.
but if the person wants to put up a fence, they could.
Yeah.
That'll be another council meeting.
We'll have one anyway.
Unless it's,
But yeah,
I
you
can't
guys
get
did
to
instead of
it.
50 feet, like they were gonna vacate the alley.
So Jim, you want the alley
You get the 50
right by
feet,
your
you
house
would
to
only
stay
get
the way
30
it
feet.
is that right?
What's that?
You want the alley by your house to stay the way it is?
I'm happy.
Okay,
And so's Wanda, right?
kind of.
It's fine to be an alley.
So I guess, if we're gonna look at some action, I guess this is what I'd suggest. So we'd have a motion that would say we move the north-south alley to the east 20 feet of these parcels, that we would not sell parcel, or not vacate parcel G. But then also would be the statement about selling that property, and the value was recommended to be $750, and you would just, we would just offer the property for sale to the adjoining property owner.
Are we gonna keep it at $750 when we've taken 20 feet from it? Just thought I'd throw that in there.
We're actually just trading 20 feet.
Okay,
The 20 that's there.
but we were gonna vacate it and give it to them, and now
You
we're
were
not.
still buying, you were still only buying the 30 by whatever, because the alleyway was gonna still stay theirs. Then they were going to vacate the alley, and you would own both sides of it, and they could quit claim deed with that, and soon quit claim deed it to you.
Is that alley?
In the long run,
gonna be
yes, you would
so
have gotten that.
It's gonna hook up the way it is now and go on around, but only on the new
The
20
point
foot?
is, they want to stop the snowmobilers running from.
Or is it just gonna stop it down there by my end of my lot?
Oh, there's a little jog.
So, they want the
There's a
snowmobilers
little
on the
jog
outside of the property.
According to this diagram, there's a little jog.
Yeah,
Yeah, more on the trail than your-
There isn't, or there is?
there it is.
There is.
That would still be, we're not changing anything on the south side. We're only moving the alley on the east side, on the other side of the railroad right away. Does that make sense? So you're still gonna, because it looks to me like it still goes back through there, if this diagram is correct. Have you looked at
It's-
this?
Kinda correct.
So
It's
is this
not-
trail,
that's
is that,
not-
just an exercise trail?
It's a snowmobile trail.
Well, potentially it
So
could
it
be.
really just comes up there and goes under the viaduct, right?
Yeah, potentially. This is all just future thinking is all. Because they're,
'Cause I was gonna
like
say
Court
that
was
might-
saying, we don't have land to the south of that to make it continuous, so.
Those guys been
Well,
saying-
can you come down there and just show us what you're gonna do? And then we can, if she wants to do something there, we can come up with some kind of idea.
It's,
They're not doing anything between your houses.
it's,
I'll leave you guys alone.
Okay, but how, it's, when I was saying, you know, about this, the north-south,
yeah.
that you're gonna move to the east, are we gonna be able to hook up to that?
It would be platted that way. It would be,
It goes all the way
the
back
answer is
there.
yes, it goes all the way back.
According to this, it goes back there, if this is correct. I hope it's correct.
This is the alley G they're talking about.
And then you're gonna
So
move
we're
this
gonna
down.
move this alley right here, this current here, we're talking about moving it back 20 feet.
And then you still would have this here to hook up to.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I think it's a good fix. I think Gary and Court did a good job.
So you want us, did I just do that motion again so we get that
Yeah, if
correct?
somebody would like to make that motion, to move the north-south alley to the east 20 feet of the parcels, not to sell parcel G or vacate parcel G, and to set purchase price at $750.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Tom,
Yes.
Mulder,
Yes.
Reese, Bolton. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
What if somebody don't wanna pay the $750?
Technically, somebody else could purchase it, you know, if somebody else could purchase,
I can't think it'd be worth it.
but
Parcel G.
The land, if somebody else purchases land, pretty much has no value to anybody other than the land, because you can't build anything on it, so.
Well, I think the original proposal was that one of the property owners was gonna purchase it. Is that not right?
Of the
Yeah.
whole thing.
The whole thing.
That's what I said. I said if somebody didn't want it, then I would buy their section just
So
because.
don't you think this is a good fix?
I don't know, I'm kinda lost when you said you're moving everything, cause I saw where the stakes were and what the city was gonna have, and now they're saying 20 foot. Well, are you talking 20 foot from the ravine up, or are you talking 20 foot from the apple trees coming our way? Yeah, I'm just, it's over my head at this point. I'm
I wouldn't look for things to be changing much down there. what you see now is what you're gonna see next year, would be my guess. We're not gonna do anything.
It will just give everybody access and future homeowners. Everybody that lives along here has access to the back of their property. That's the
So
good
the
thing.
alley will be where the snowmobile trail is?
Yeah, we just took that 20-foot alley out of between your property and the railroad, and we just moved it on the other side of the railroad. I mean, that's really all you're doing, and those people now have access, because otherwise.
So then we're able to obtain that section then, right?
You're able to obtain the property behind your house.
So if you're moving it on the other side of the road, are they getting 50 feet width? Or the 30 feet?
Call the real estate guy, he knows.
No, I'm the real estate guy. What you just said, because you said it's on the other side of the railroad. Is that, you meaning the east or the west side of the
Will it
railroad?
be the new side of the railroad?
It'd be the east side.
The east side.
So in the ravine.
That's the west side.
It's gotta be the west side.
Yeah.
Towards the
Yeah.
house.
So, when we were out there, Leanne,
Right,
and we
but
said.
you're gonna move it to the east side.
The city's retaining 20 feet, okay, the alley is not on that 20 feet, it's the next 20 feet to the west.
Is that clear as mud?
You betcha.
That's what I thought.
Everything always is.
Okay, so just so I'm kinda clear, so I can talk to Gary about it. Let me just do this by picture, because I'm a picture guy. So, you're taking this 20 feet and putting it on this right here, outside the black line, or you're gonna put it inside? So then they're only getting 20 feet minus that, 40 feet. Okay, maybe even more.
If everybody's
Now-
clear, we'll move on.
I just have a question for our attorney then, about the sale process then.
Right, what we do is, once we get the, we're gonna have to plat out that 20 feet to be on the east side, and then what we would do would be to just publish a notice of the city's intention to sell each parcel to the adjoining property owner for the $750.
Did you guys get that?
I'm sorry?
He was just telling us how to do that.
Okay, sorry. The real estate guy was explaining.
He was, yeah. No, the attorneys, we're paying him, we wanna hear what he has to say.
What we'll do is adjust the legal descriptions to move that 20-foot alley to the east part of the surveyed parcels, inside the line court.
Okay.
And then we'll just publish a notice of intent for the city to sell to the adjoining property owners for $750 each one of those parcels.
Okay.
And then if there's no objections, then that could be approved by the council and title could transfer.
That be a deed or a quitclaim deed or what?
Be a deed,
Yeah, actual deed.
yeah. Yeah, it's a deed. It's a municipal deed, so that's a little different cap, but it'll work.
Go ahead.
I got one question. Just I was coming in here late on this topic, and there's one reason I'm here, but talking to these guys, their concern with this is, not concern, one of the reasons for this was to put the alleyway to where the snowmobiles travel in that area, so they don't have the liability. But those snowmobiles travel right through our property too, which is private property, which you just kind of channel them through there. I mean, what does that do for us to not make us liable for anything? Because we do keep a lot of stuff outside there, right where that trail goes, so we're still liable. One of my questions would be is to, if you take that trail and eliminate the snowmobiles from that, which I know that's gonna be impossible to do, but make them run on the street until they get to the actual designated trail.
Well, when this was brought up, that wasn't brought up as an issue. The issue was they wanted to purchase the land. We've talked about those snowmobiles, but they never said we want them booted out.
Right.
That wasn't brought up.
Well, that's, I say, I was coming in here late, but that's just one of the things that I kinda,
The only thing we brought up was we didn't want the liability of them, being on our property, which I think as any homeowner would feel that way.
I mean,
Now, the other thing, Craig, and you have to tell me if this is right or not, is that when you talk with the snowmobile group, they say, yeah, we talked with the private landowners there, and they said that they're okay with it.
No.
And it's basically the
I'm not
in
saying,
this
I'm not
case,
saying
it's-
that, hey, I'm
it's
against
the
the
lumberyard.
automobile too, and
It's the lumberyard and the.
we go right
next
through
to
there,
it.
you know, we get it, but I mean,
Dave, is there such a thing as limited liability, when I'm saying that?
A
if it-
private landowner that allows snowmobiles to be used on their property is not liable for any injury to the snowmobile.
That's not true. We had an insured that had to pay medical costs, his insurance company had to pay medical costs because somebody ramped over a road and landed on his property and got injured.
He didn't trespass?
Bad call.
He didn't have
And
the
we
right
didn't find
to-
out about it till June.
We'll have to look that up, Court, but I think the property owner is immune, there must be something else going on with that claim. Whether you gave him permission or something like that.
No, he didn't even know about it.
I didn't even know about it, it's me.
Oh,
We didn't find out about it till June.
Yeah, but I don't think we paid that, did we?
I think they did.
they just paid the medical?
Mhm.
Well, sometimes they'll do that just to get the claim closed.
If they trespassed without permission, I didn't even know about it until after the claim was processed.
And he was under the age of 18. So, it didn't matter about trespassing.
But I think it's,
I would maintain legally your company wasn't required to pay for that, neither would you have been,
I wasn't happy about it.
but a lot of times in like a shopping mall, if you slip and fall, they'll pay your medical bills if you just go away.
Yeah. Okay.
But it still made him liable as the owner. It's his insurance policy.
That's probably true, but,
They're better off not to have one.
med pay's a little different than personal injury.
Okay, we're gonna move on. We need to pay legacy payment number 6. Bill, everything's okay?
You bet.
Need a motion to approve that payment?
so moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
John,
Yes.
he plans on being done with the total job in the second week of November.
He's right on schedule.
He's ahead of
Wait, it's
schedule.
supposed to be December, wasn't it?
Yep. They, I think there's only 20 poles laying down there.
They were bringing a load in.
But the only thing that won't be done is the lagoon, because they don't have the property ready.
They don't have their stuff cleaned off the fence line.
So they'll have to come back to finish that job.
Now, I talked with Grundman Hicks about that today, Bill, they were heading back over. Did they do anything today? Grundman Hicks was coming back, but.
Yeah, it was too muddy to get back there, Scott. When you get over that hill, you go downhill, there's no way you get down there.
We'll get back up.
No, they did what they could do today, and that's it.
Okay, we got,
No, I need to take a roll call, yeah.
oh.
Okay, Moller,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Bolton, Reese.
Yes.
Okay, we have bids on the maintenance building.
Yeah, so we took bids on the maintenance building and we received 2 bids. You can see what those bids were. They, Chad Peterson and from Quail. $240,000 was the low bid on that. Our estimate was $2 to $220. We tried to accommodate local bidders as much as possible, and we still had a tough time getting bids. Now, you know, just a couple things, we bid an alternative on that for spray foam insulation, and you see those additional costs on spray foam. If you go with Chad Peterson as a low bid, additional cost is $5,300. And then also just considering all of the additional costs that would have to come along with this, so that is tearing out those 2 Quonset, so getting the site to rough grade. Then the contractor comes in, puts the foundation in place. We fill in inside and outside of the foundation then. Plus then, we're looking at the heating and the electrical, garage door openers, everything like that. You'd look at a $300,000 project. We have, as of this budget year, we've set aside $200,000 for it. I would guess if this is something that we're prepared to proceed with, we could still afford it, I'd suggest that the electric utility would pay the remainder.
Do we have a motion to accept the bid?
I'll make a motion to accept the low bid.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Thomas,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Boltman. Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
So, one that wondered about this foam that everybody is using, has anybody ever opened that back up after a few years to see if it's staying wet? Years ago, we did our house in foam, and when we remodeled it a few years later, it was all pulled away from the two guys and dropped from the top. And I was just wondering, has anybody ever opened this back up to see what it looks like in there after a few years? You know, I don't know, that anything? No? I know everybody says it's the best, but, you know, I was just wondering.
Didn't that night Chris was here, didn't he say that he didn't really recommend that, and wasn't it written somewhere where you had that added on?
It was bid as an alternate. Hey, Chris didn't sell it,
He
so
doesn't
that's
sell
why he wasn't recommending.
Spray foam guys think it's best.
But, we did bid it as an alternate, and I guess and I should clarify your motion, but I just put accept the low bid, which was not to include that alternate.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's fine, I'm good with that.
We have the city administrator report. Must be the East Shore.
Yeah, I wanna talk about the plans on East Shore Drive. In the packet, that'll be page 36, is the review from Inkster and Kim. And I'd just like to highlight a couple things on that. So, and I set those plans out at your desk, or at your seat here today about, those are certain sheets out of the plans, it's not all of them. But we'll go through and show some of what they're proposing. But then we had Inkster and Kim review all of these plans to check for consistency with what they would also recommend then from their engineering standards. So, just a couple things of note. And I'm gonna not go through every one of these, just highlight some of them. Item 2, they said propose, this does propose 6-inch water mains, and the writer notes that many are installing 8-inch water mains. We only have 6-inch water main going around the lake. So, it doesn't do us any good to upsize that.
So 6 inches, okay.
And I would just recommend that we would stay with 6, yeah. Number 4 talks about a recommendation to add an intermediate valve halfway down that block of the new street. And again, that's for isolating water leaks and stuff. But I don't know that we need to have that additional valve there. It's an extra $1,000 of expense. And it's the difference between isolating 13 lots versus 26 lots. It's either way, it's not too many. And we would consider that to be pretty good isolation. Flipping to the next page, just some stuff about the sanitary sewer. I've circled number 8. Sanitary sewer depth is about 8 feet at the north end and then 12 feet at the south end. That allows for basements to go down out there. And then number 10 talks about the elevation of the lift station. So the invert elevation at that lift station is 14 feet. So the lift station itself is pretty deep at 14 feet, and that's part of the reason for the cost. Now, we haven't seen all of the cost estimates on this, but Bobby Terrell has been working on coming up with cost on that lift station especially. A couple things on that lift station is that, again, it's 14 feet deep, but it's sized to accommodate 70 units or something like that. So it's sized to accommodate a lot more than what the size of the addition would be. So Bob has then asked that the city would participate financially in the amount over and above that size needed for his development. Well, he needs 26, and they're sizing for like 70. When you get right down to it, the number that he was talking about is about $100,000.
Why are they doing that? I mean, why is it?
You know, and it would be standard to size for some additional capacity for the future. But that's
That many.
That's a lot. I can't see another 40 units going in out there.
That's what I was gonna say, where would
And-
you put them?
There's, there's adjacent land to it. Lanfear's have some adjacent land directly to the south, which would be conceivably serviced by this at some point. But, so the give and take there is, if the city would participate financially in that, he would not do that special assessment or the spike strip thing that he was talking about. There'd be no additional hookups in the future.
It would be ours.
Yeah.
But how much?
Again, that initial number was about $100,000, and I would tell you, I would not recommend that. Our sewer utility could not afford to pay that. I think our initial response is that we'd ask them to downsize it to a much more agreeable size.
Even if you had the hole there to start with, you would still sometime be able to put a bigger pump in there if you had to, right?
You could. Yeah, we've done that before.
Right. So, after 20 years, we probably won't care.
You look at item number 12 there, where they're assuming that the deeper inverse elevation is necessary for future southerly extension. So if you said, no, if I don't want to serve those lands to the south, then it could shallow up the lift station a little bit. I'm not sure you want to say that. At some point you may want to provide service to the lands to the south, Lanfear's land. But it just needs to be a little bit more reasonable as far as the sizing.
How far south do we go then until we have sewer? Clear to the corner? Where do we have sewer?
I don't follow.
Goes all the way around the lake.
So sewer goes all the way around the lake.
Right in front
So
of the
you're just
project.
talking about hooking onto it?
Yes. Now, and always think about sewer going south to north around the lake. Okay, there's a lift station at Nancy Mulbauer's cabin. Okay, and then it pumps across the inlet, and it's just a force main then the entire way over to Bill Clausen's or to the Dixieland. That's a force main the entire way. So anybody who's getting into that force main has got to force their sewage into the force main. So that's why there's a lift station there. That make sense?
Right, but, so Lampiers wouldn't hook into that.
They would have to have access to the lift station.
The Terrell's gonna.
Yep.
Bet you'd have to sell the ground to do that for
Dorothy, you have a
I
question?
I just have a question. Is this going to be run by Mr. Terrell?
No,
No, it would end up being,
the city will run it.
dedicated to the city.
Okay, but he was talking about receiving income and charging fees to anybody that hooked
That
up.
was that spike strip.
I don't understand spike strip, I guess, but he's not going to be able to do that?
He was asking the city to participate financially, and in exchange for that, he would not have future hookup fees.
He's saying, I think, that if he pays for the whole lift station, he's going to charge someone else to hook into it. Right.
But if the city participates in the cost of that,
Then
it
he'll,
wouldn't be that.
no.
To me, it's either a private system or it's a public system.
Well, you can't expect him to put all the money in and you put in none and you just hook in.
No, but an ongoing fee, paying an ongoing fee to a private individual.
Basically, Dorothy, if something like that were to happen, it's basically set up as a special assessment. It's a special connection fee district is what it is.
Just once.
But think of it as a special assessment.
Just a one-time fee,
Yeah, for
just a one-time, yeah.
so much for every new hookup.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be if you was gonna develop it, I would probably say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But he has to build it to our specs, and then when he's done, then the city operates it. That's why we want him to do it our way, just to use our pumps
Yep, so,
to match.
and that's kind of what, item 13 is about. They say they didn't provide any information on the pumps. We've required flight pumps, so that it's consistent with the rest of our system. Item 16 actually has a small required change on that, to add a third hinge onto the stainless steel hatch cover.